everybody, welcome back to episode 84 on this Saturday night. How's everybody doing? We are just chilling, hanging out.
Or trying to.
Yeah, we just had a nice dinner. We ended up ordering out from a local restaurant in our town, which was nice. And I love when it comes on time, so that was good.
It actually
Because we were starving, because we
yeah,
hardly
right.
ate anything today.
That is true.
We had a busy day, as we mentioned on Thursday. We visited Bob, our tattoo guy.
Yeah.
And at first we got there and the door was locked, so we're like, oh gosh.
Well, don't say bad things about
yeah,
it.
he came right down, so it was no big deal. But we almost thought for a second, like, did we get our facts wrong?
Right.
Whatever.
We could have had the dates messed up.
Yeah. But we went. Mine was not involved, so that was good.
Yeah.
I was relieved.
Yeah, he did touch up mine. I have to show it off a little bit. Although I don't know that you can really tell any different because, I mean, it's especially up here, it's more distinct. I have to move my arm so it's straight. Is that straight?
That's straight.
I can't even tell. But yeah, he did mostly just like the outlines and some of the more finer, like the finer details. He went
The
over.
funny thing is, he was telling us about people who kind of struggle, even after having.
Because why was he telling us about that?
Well, it was.
It
definitely
was a little
painful.
tougher.
Yeah.
Well, we don't want to scare people away.
Yeah.
That's the thing. We don't want to scare people away because people react differently.
That's true.
But it was a bit of a struggle this time, and I think it's really just because I kind of like knew what to expect going into it. The first time, I really, I didn't know. Had never done it before. And, so I just went along with it. But this time, knowing that it was going to be a little bit intense, and I think I was just more nervous. It was fine, and he took all of like maybe 10 minutes. I mean, it wasn't a drawn-out process.
Yeah, it wasn't 3 hours again.
But that's what led to the conversation about how other people have reacted. I think he was trying to make me feel bad.
I think so too. But it is funny because after, obviously, there's a little bit of pain, so it's not like...
Discomfort. Say discomfort. It sounds better to say discomfort.
And knowing that for people who go again and again and again, I think it's kind of like interesting that people are just
Right. I mean, he was talking about people who would pass out in the process.
Oh yeah, and people that
And
knew
then
that they would pass.
Right, and then come back for multiple tattoos where in each, instance they would pass out because of the intensity of it, we'll just say.
Yeah.
I did not pass out. I didn't feel faint.
You were in
or
a chair,
anything
someone
like
had
that.
to catch you.
Right, although he did tell a story about somebody, he was doing a thing on the person's back, and so they were still standing.
He was just he didn't even start
Yeah,
yet.
he put the stencil on.
Yeah, he just put the stencil on the
And he had to
person's
grab
back.
the guy because he started, and it was, all of the stories he told were about guys. He didn't say that women had ever reacted that way.
And he said one guy who was getting a tattoo on his hand asked to stop, and then he just got up and in the dead of winter just walked down the alley.
Right, because
and had to get out of there.
There's a couple different rooms in his shop, so you come in and there's kind of like a waiting area, and then there's the room where he does the artwork, and there's a door that leads outside, and it goes to the alley, because the alleys run north and south, and his shop is on a series of storefronts that run east and west. So out the back door is just straight down the alley. So the dude in the dead of winter, and again, it was someone who'd had multiple tattoos.
Yeah.
So,
You just never know how your body's... And it was funny because he said that shows that your body is reacting appropriately.
Yeah.
Kind of like have that kind of response kind of thing.
But we don't want to scare people away
No.
because not everyone has those reactions, and some people are, tolerate it better than others. I mean, I think I tolerated it pretty well, actually. But like I said, I think today it was just a little bit more nerves because
You knew what was
I knew what to expect.
Yeah.
Yeah, and some area, I mean, it's a big tattoo, and some areas are more sensitive than others. So that's also
That's why I just can't imagine doing what on the neck where it's so
or
sensitive.
on your hands.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I don't know that I could do that.
No.
I mean, I probably wouldn't, but
I know some people who have gotten tattoo wedding bands, but then that's also, what if it doesn't work out?
someone
then you're just gotta either have another ring on top of it or try to get that removed.
didn't they do that on some reality show? I thought in one of the various
Oh, they probably did.
90 Day Fiance shows or whatever. I thought somebody did that.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, speaking of shows that make Americans look bad,
Right. Exactly.
that's not a show that necessarily.
Yeah, it's the brightest.
We're not putting our best people on that show.
No, that's for sure.
Well, that's an entirely different topic for another.
Later on, we're going to actually watch the Real World reunion from 1992.
Was that the first?
I think it was the first one.
First season?
And so they brought everybody back, and so I'm not sure what to expect. If it's just like if they're living in a house again, if it's like a Q&A, I have no idea.
Yeah, I don't know. And I'm thinking that even though it was in, like you said, it was 1992 and we met in 93, I still think we watched it. I'm sure that I didn't, and it's not no offense to you.
I never would have. No,
I don't think I watched anything like that before we met.
Yeah.
And it's not because you decided, we probably.
Yeah.
But I think we saw the.
It's certainly entertaining. Obviously they put people in there, they're going to have conflicts and how to resolve them and things like that. So, it'll be interesting where these people went in their lives. One girl looks exactly the same, like 30 years later. So I was like, that's kind of quirky. You know what I'm talking about, the youngest one who was like 19, which I also think is a dumb idea to go on a reality show where you're living with 7 strangers, whatever, you're in New York City and you can't drink, so that's kind of
I think there have been a few seasons where they had like one person who was underage.
Yeah, and sometimes they get left behind, so that's not fun.
And I want to say, and I could be wrong about this, I think they did a few seasons in New York initially, and then they branched out to other places. They've had them in
and
Europe,
actually,
obviously.
funny enough, we did not watch the season that was in Chicago.
There's been more than one. We saw at least one season in Chicago, for sure.
I totally forgot about that one.
Oh, we absolutely did.
Okay, then I just lied.
But they've had repeats in certain cities before. I want to say that there's been more than one in Las Vegas.
Yes, because one time they stayed in that hotel.
They were actually in a hotel, like the Palms or whatever it's called. Yeah. And then they've had a couple in like Cancun or that kind of place. That's a dangerous idea.
Yeah.
Like a bunch of
huge mistake.
Huge mistake. But I still think that we watched that first one. Obviously, it was in reruns, but I think we did.
I'm 100% positive we did.
Okay, 100% positive. And I bet you they didn't have many tattoos. They weren't very popular in 1990. Well, maybe they were. It seems like it's a more recent thing.
Not as more mainstream, I guess.
That's what I used to say about the band Social Distortion, which was they were popular. Well, I don't know, popular. They were popular in my world in the 90s, but I always used to say they had the most tattoos per capita of any band, and now it's like probably not even close. Like, it wasn't like one of the cats just went into the bathroom. She likes to jump up on the sink. And
Put her feet in there.
See paw prints all over the sink.
Yeah.
I was not the last person in there, so
I was.
I didn't leave the door open.
But then it's also like you don't want to like just keep it shut to think somebody's in there or whatever. So you could always knock.
Right.
But.
And my thing is, if my hands are dirty and I need to wash my hands, I don't have to touch the doorknob.
Right.
Because then you touch the doorknob and wash your hands.
It's a whole thing.
And then if you have to close the door behind you, you have to touch the doorknob again.
Right.
Clean hands. You have no idea the stress of being a germaphobe. No idea how stressful that is.
Do you have a necklace?
Yeah, like putty on
Seinfeld.
And Seinfeld. No, I'm not a recovering germaphobe. I'm just a straight up germaphobe.
Current.
Yeah.
So I just saw some news on Facebook I didn't even share with you yet.
What's
that our Air Shepko passed away yesterday.
Oh,
it was
wow.
our a teacher in high school that we had both for choir. Well, did you have him for choir?
No, I just had him for German.
Okay. He was a German teacher from Germany.
Right.
Very eclectic. Very just out there.
He actually, yeah. I mean, I think they lived in Austria. He and his mother had survived, World War II, I believe, in Austria. Came to the States afterwards. And he was one of two German teachers at the high school, and they alternated years. So I think I had him. I believe I had him freshman and senior year, and the other guy who was from Sheboygan, Wisconsin, which is a good place for a German teacher to be from.
It is.
And who had
Sheboygan.
had a giant. This is a true story. Had a giant astrology. Am I saying that right? Astrology chart on his wall.
Oh,
with
okay.
the planet symbols and.
All right.
He never talked about astrology in class, but
right, and you're like, and what's that for?
yeah, Mr. Bratz had the, and his name was Bratz.
Yeah,
it wasn't spelled like Bratwurst Bratz.
That's too bad.
But he was from Sheboygan, and his name was Mr. Bratz.
That's
I'm not
so
making
funny.
that up. I'm not making.
I think
that
he
up.
might have been there when I was there too, because that name
That's
sounds
like
familiar.
it's like the library cop being named Mr. Bookman.
Yeah.
Right, Mr. Bratz. But Herr Shepko was. He also taught art history.
That I did not know.
Yeah, I had at least one of my sisters had him for art history, and I have to say, I don't know that we learned a lot of German. We learned some cool stuff because he was really into like literature and art and things like that. And we read a really incredible play in that class, which was by an Austrian playwright by the name of Max Frisch, and it's a fascinating story. I mean, it's fiction, but it's a fascinating story. It was a radio play originally, but there have been actual stage productions of it. And in English, it's usually just called The Arsonists, and it is a.
Oh, I remember you told me.
It is a cautionary tale about the rise of Nazism, that was pretty interesting from a German teacher who had actually been affected by that in his life. Where it's this crazy story where this sort of like middle class, very uptight family in the suburbs of wherever in Germany, they're at home one night and there's a knock on the door and these two guys show up and they want to stay the night, and because this uptight family doesn't want to, they don't want conflict, they don't want anything, they don't want to be embarrassed, so they bring them in quickly so the neighbors don't see and they let them stay. Anyway, long story short, the two guys end up burning down the entire town.
Yeah.
They're arsonists. And it's stuff like they start bringing in, they first, they never leave. So, and the family, they're like too polite to like shoo them out the door and say, what are you doing here? You got to go. And they start doing stuff like, they start bringing in giant, barrels of gasoline and storing them in the attic. And then they say, when he asks them what they do, they say, oh, we're going to burn down the town. And of course he thinks they're joking. Anyway, it's an obvious analogy.
It's a cautionary tale.
I mean, they are, they represent, the Nazis essentially saying to people what they intended to do and people not wanting conflict, so they didn't stand up to them. Fascinating.
Yeah,
play.
that's
really
bizarre.
Fascinating play.
So did you?
That's what I remember Herr Shepko. I remember him for that play and for showing up to play Happy Birthday for Mr. Fuller, the choir director, with his tiny little German piano.
Yes.
It was a toy piano, but it played.
It did.
And it was like a little baby grand piano, and he brought it down to the choir room and he played.
And I had him for Aeolian Choir, which was my freshman year in high school. And I just remember him. Well,
is that the mayonnaise with the garlic?
Yes.
Aioli? Oh, no, that's
it is.
Something else.
He had white hair, and it was just like always like kind of
like Beethoven.
All crazy.
He didn't have as much hair as Beethoven. You see the pictures like the bust of Beethoven or whatever. He had a lot more hair, but it was crazy like Beethoven.
And he always walked super fast wherever he was going. It was just like It was almost like he only had 1 minute to get to the next class because he was always just like in and out of traffic. I believe he was 94.
Well, that
it makes sense because I was just thinking this year is my 35th year out of high school. So if he was there, and I'm thinking like he was older then, he has to be old.
And he was the only high school teacher that you saw everywhere around town.
You did.
If you're out at a restaurant, you'd see him.
Yes.
If there was something going on, some function in the park or whatever, you'd run into him all over the place.
Yeah, which is also kind of, and he always stopped to say hi to you and everything like that. So.
And he loved us because of our last name.
Yeah. But I didn't have that last name then.
No, but I mean,
yes.
my one of my other sisters had him for German.
Right.
One of my sisters had him for art history. So
just the nicest person, but he made an impact on. He was there for a long time, so I'm sure that many kids have the same story of him as a teacher. So I just thought I'd share that with you because I just saw it on Facebook.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
That's sad.
It is. That's all I know about it. But somebody had written like a really long tribute about they went into music because of him. So
that does not surprise me. He was he's very serious about art and music.
So serious.
Not so serious about teaching German, but that's okay.
Life lessons.
Life lessons. We I do kind of wish I had learned the language a little better though, but that's okay.
I kind of think it's like once you
say
take
Shane to
yeah. Yes. I took French, but I wouldn't be able to tell you hardly anything now. But I think it's just because you're getting
except that you can cuss and then you can say pardon my French.
That's true.
So.
And actually, Dave and I were talking about not too long ago maybe trying Espanol.
Yeah.
Just because that would be just useful to know.
Yeah, really useful actually.
So I kind of looked like some information up on Babbel. It's like a kind of like. Not a fast course, but I mean it just kind of like breaks it down a little bit faster than a normal like going to like a community college to take Spanish like from scratch.
Well, and I think of course now in general just with languages there's a lot more opportunities, but I think the big thing with Spanish is that there's Spanish language television and radio and there's a lot of Spanish speaking people in the country, so you can actually you don't just study it from a textbook or whatever, you can actually use it.
Yeah.
And like our friend Joel, when he decided, he had also taken, I think, French in high school, but he decided he wanted to learn it for real as an adult. And, one of the things that he did was, aside from like ordering subscriptions to periodicals that were in French, he also would listen to, he was a shortwave guy. So this was before the days of the internet, or the very early days of the internet, but he would listen to Radio Canada or whatever, I can't remember if that's the right name, but he would listen to Quebec-based radio in
just
French.
Just to kind of like learn and listen to the language.
And because it's like playing guitar, for example. There's a lot of things you could play very slowly and you could play all the right chords or whatever. But if you really want to play, you got to be able to play like,
Yeah.
Language is kind of like that, people don't speak really slowly when they're speaking their native tongue. So it's helpful to listen to people who are native speakers because they're speaking at a normal pace for them.
Yeah.
And you have to be able to pick up all the subtleties.
We could watch novellas.
Telenovelas, yeah, there you go.
I just remember my friend of mine when I went on a right after David and I met, I had a vacation planned with 3 girlfriends to Cancun, and for a week, and it was just like an Apple vacation, so no frills, just like a hotel and everything, so it wasn't anything fancy at all. But my friend Arlene spoke Spanish, and so when we went to check in, she was my roommate, so and the 2 other women had their own,
including someone I went to high school with,
yes.
Which is kind of funny.
And so I wasn't paying attention, where she's just talking to the person, checking us in and everything. And she and I check in, and we got upgraded to an ocean view, mini suite, super deluxe room.
That's the way.
And then our other friends, came, and they're just like, "What? Our room is just like so bare bones, everything." And she's like, "Sorry," but I'm sure by the end of the time, she was getting so sick of it because we were making her ask so many things. How much money is this? Getting money out of ATM, how much money, it was just kind of like, she was probably like, oh my gosh, why?
When I also went to Cancun before we met, but when I went to Cancun, the exchange rate, which changed at some point, but back then the exchange rate was 3,000 pesos to the dollar. And I mean, it may not have been exactly 3,000, but it was in that range. And they use the dollar symbol for pesos. So when you get the bill for, at a restaurant or whatever, it would look like, thousands and thousands of dollars. You just
spend, how much is this?
just spent $10,000 on some chips and a Coke at the little snack bar, whatever. It's kind of funny. The bill at the end of the time, we had paid for certain things in advance, but the bill at the end was like, it looked like it was over $1 million.
We
Because they have a dollar sign, and
yeah.
Yeah.
That's
I
too
should have
funny.
saved it. It was kind of cool. But they revalued the currency at some point and it changed.
There you go.
The other thing I remember about going to Mexico was that everybody drove stick shift. Every car was stick shift. We went to the ruins at Tulum, which is kind of a neat trip, day trip, and the bus, like this nice luxury tour bus coach kind of thing, it was stick shift.
It was like.
No, but the guy knew how to drive it,
Right,
so it wasn't
like,
a
yeah,
problem.
it wasn't like somebody-
Up and down hills
Yeah.
and everything like that, it was wild.
I just remember being dumb and going to the bar and asking for a Miller Lite. They don't have that there. At
They
the
do
time,
now,
they
but they
probably
don't
do
then.
now. Then it was like just Corona, which by the end I was like, I can't drink another. I don't think I have had another Corona since. But anyway, I asked for a Miller Lite, and then the guy hands me a pack of Marlboro Light cigarettes, and I was like, no, not that. So that was kind of funny.
There's a lot more American beer available in places now. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but it really used to be that like Budweiser was like the main American beer that you could get anywhere outside the United States. Of course, if you're going outside the United States, you could probably find.
Although the last time when we went to the Bahamas, their beer was really good.
What was it called?
I know it was called
It was like
with a K.
well, there were two. There was
Kaluki.
something like that, but there were two different. Same brewery, but two different names.
And I like the packaging; was really cool.
All right, we'll have to look it up. Bahamas Brewing Company. I bet you that's Nassau Bahamas Brewing.
I think that's probably it.
Well, they have a few. It's not. There's someplace called Pirate Brewing, but it's not that. Yeah,
What's the Bahamian brewery? Does it have like different types that they have?
No, that looks like it's. You know what I think it was called? Hold on.
Stay tuned. Stay tuned.
Yep.
Oh yes.
Kalik. Oh, it was Commonwealth Brewery is the
Okay.
name of the.
Kalik was the name, and it was very good.
Oh, what is your age?
For over 21, we can check that website.
Should I tell them my age? Should I lie? Oh, I gotta click enter. And
Yes,
what
that was definitely.
That was it, but there was another. There was a related brand that had the same kind of label. In any event, it's the beer of the Bahamas. It says so right here. The internet. It says so on the internet. Anyway, it was
it's fun to. I wouldn't have gotten an American beer because you're there. You may as well try something that's local to the area.
Yeah. Well, it was just fine. Although it is funny, I'm looking on the internet, so no one knows what I'm looking at. But they have all these different varieties on the website, but none of them are what I was thinking of. Products. Anyway, it was fun.
So that's and then what else did we do today? We finished our grocery shopping. Gonna get delivered tomorrow. Check.
We worked out.
We worked out, which was good. I was on the fence, to be honest with you. I was just like, I'm kind of tired, but then it's like, it is the weekend.
What's funny about that is I didn't lift weights, which I would normally do on a Saturday, but my arm was a little bit sore, not that big of a deal. But my back is really sore, like I did, and I think it's from sitting in the chair and like being tense.
It could be.
Because I don't know what else could, it wasn't bothering me earlier today. Yeah. And I don't recall that happening the first time, but in any event, I was like, wow, why is my back so sore?
Now the cats are going crazy.
Going
so
crazy.
anyway, so that's what's going on with us. We're just going to enjoy on the last day of the weekend before we get back. We're going to have 60s next week in Chicago.
Supposedly.
So we're super excited about that. So I will be happy to hang up my winter coat that I've been wearing for so long.
I'm telling you, we're going to have bad
I'm
weather
not putting
again.
it away. Yeah,
Don't put it away.
Yeah.
Don't put your boots away.
Don't put your sweaters away.
I'm not stashing the snow shovels down in the basement or anything like that.
Not yet. So thanks for joining us tonight, and we will see you next time. Have a good night.
Bye.
Bye.